Enoch Burke was released today from Mountjoy Prison. He was ordered to be released by the High Court judge, Mr. Justice Mark Sanfey. The judge made reference to the school being closed and no pupils being in the school and the state examinations being finished, and ordered the release of Mr. Burke from Mountjoy Prison. He also told the legal team for the school, Wilson's Hospital School, that if there was any transgression, any breach of the existing High Court order to stay away from the school, which stays in place, well then he expects the school to go back to the High Court looking for an order for the committal of Mr. Burke to prison again. So the case has been put in for mention there the last week in August, and that'll obviously give the school some time to see what happens during the summer and obviously coming up to the commencement of the new school year, and at that stage then the case will be reviewed. So that's what's planned there. The case today then was actually an application by Mr. Burke for the High Court to find basically that a previous order made by Mr. Justice Owens, I think, against Mr. Burke, ordering him to stay away from the school and so on, was unconstitutional. So the hearing today was essentially to deal with that matter, but the judge has reserved judgment in that particular aspect of Mr. Burke's application. The senior counsel for the school then, Alex White, he said that Mr. Burke had his opportunity to challenge the order of Mr. Justice Alexander Owens at the time and was actually excluded from the court as a consequence of his misconduct and his carry-on in the court. So the senior counsel, Alex White, for the school also said that there's no jurisdiction for the High Court, one High Court judge, to set aside an order of another High Court judge. The appropriate procedure would be for the appeal of that High Court order to the Court of Appeal, and Mr. Burke did not avail of this. So to summarise, the judge has said that he'll be returned to prison if he went back to the school. In his application to the court, Mr. Burke said that the decision by Mr. Justice Alexander Owens granting Wilson's Hospital School a permanent injunction restraining him from attending the school should be set aside because he was in breach of his constitutional rights. He said that the core issue was that he had been instructed by the principal of his school to address a student with the pronoun they, and that he thereby affirmed transgenderism and accept an anti-Christian belief. The school had no legal basis for making such a demand, but this issue had not been addressed by Mr. Justice Owens when he was making his order. He said it was a gutter judgment. Alex White, senior counsel then for the school, said that Mr. Burke's application was bound to fail. He said no appeal had been lodged against Mr. Justice Owens' judgment, which was made more than a year ago. And Mr. White quoted from previous rulings of the superior courts about the public policy interest in having finality to cases so that parties could know where they stand. So he's basically making the case that Mr. Burke did not appeal the case, did not appeal the decision rather of Mr. Justice Alexander Owens to the Court of Appeal, and parties in any litigation are entitled to have some degree of finality. If it's not appealed to the Court of Appeal, he's saying that the High Court judge in this case cannot set aside an order of another High Court judge. He said also, Mr. Alex White said that during the 4-day hearing before Mr. Justice Alexander Owens, Mr. Burke had not advanced his argument over his constitutional rights because he had been excluded from participating in the case due to his disorderly conduct. Mr. Justice Sanfey then said that he was reserving his decision, which he hoped would be ready within a few weeks, but the decision he's going to make is actually to do with whether he has the capacity to set aside the decision of another High Court judge. That will be interesting, but it's very unlikely in my view, but who knows? Who knows? For now, Enoch Burke is released from prison, Mountjoy Prison, without purging his contempt.